Good afternoon. My name is Bob Bryan, and I get the honor and just sheer joy of grilling my partner, Pat Nelson, with questions about Social Security. If I get a question he doesn't know, then I will be very pleased, but it's not going to happen. Pat's been practicing law for how many years?
45.
And
45.
have we figured out that you've done close to 6,000 Social Security
At
cases?
least 6,000, probably more.
And did you win every one of them?
Well, close.
But Pat is known throughout the country as one of the gurus of Social Security law. He was actually at the founding meeting in New Orleans.
I was at the National Organization of Social Security Claimants Representatives.
In 1979, I believe.
I believe that's correct.
And so if you need a Social Security question answered or need help with a Social Security case, Pat's going to be the one to start with. Pat,
If I don't know it, I'll make up something.
if he does, that's right. Pat, what are the things you look for first when you talk to someone about a possible Social Security disability claim?
I like to meet people in person, first of all, and I guess that goes without saying, but the thing I'm looking for is people who have credibility, first and foremost.
Right.
I don't care what their records show or anything else. To me, if they come across that they're telling the truth, that's a big plus. All right, the next thing I look at is their work record, and that goes back to their credibility. People who have been working their entire life and never missed a beat don't show up on the doorsteps of Social Security all of a sudden trying to get something.
Are you talking about basically how long they've worked?
How long they've worked, how much they made, how consistent were they. If they've got a skimpy earnings record where they've missed a lot of work, unless there's some really viable explanation, that really sends off a trouble sign to me.
So you're looking for credibility, work history,
Right.
what else?
Age,
Right,
education,
right.
their prior work experience, those sorts of things. And frankly, that covers the majority of what I'm looking for. I've come to believe that if people have a key to their case, in other words, if you can reach down there far enough, you can find what the key to the case is. Some people, unfortunately for them, do not come across as being credible, even though they may be extremely disabled. Others come across as being very credible, even though they're not disabled. So you have to sort that out, and the way you do that, of course, is by the medical. Lastly, what we look for here at our firm, and we have no control over a lot of this, is do people have a regular physician that they're seeing. And if they don't have any insurance, a lot of people can't go to the doctor. We try to suggest ways for them to go, and I hate to say, but with these certain political interests trying to do away with Obamacare, like it or not, a lot of our clients have been able to go to the doctor that would not have been able to go otherwise. There are other ways to go if you don't have any money, but Obamacare, I've seen people paying as little as $10 a month to up to $175 a month for insurance. It would cost you probably $1,200 if you had to go out and buy it.
Pat, you said that you oftentimes look for a hook in a case or something to personalize the personal judge. I don't know if you remember, but I remember we had a case one time and the lady was the manager at Waffle House, and you pretty quickly got her to describe her work, and it is some of the hardest work I've ever heard.
It is.
The lifting of heavy weights and the time of it. And I remember, I think we had a judge from Chicago, and she had never thought that through the process.
Right. Well, the other one similar to that is working at the chicken processing plants. For people that aren't acquainted with that, I know it's a large industry here where we live, but it's also all over North Alabama to some degrees. But you stand on a concrete floor all day. It's horrid working conditions. You do the same repetitive things. You have to lift stuff over and over, and it's very, very demanding. And people that have not done manual work for the majority of their life, they don't realize what a toll that takes on your body. Somebody who's worked at the chicken plant till they're 50, that's a lot different than working at a sit-down job till you're 70 even. People who have worked all their life and never missed a day,
right,
They don't show up on the doorstep of Social Security trying to get $1,200 or $1,300 a month when they've been making $3,000 or $4,000 a month.
Right.
They just don't do it.
Yeah, if someone makes $60,000 a year,
Right.
their pay rate might be $2,000.
Exactly.
So they're not trading $5,000 a month
No.
if they
No,
didn't
no.
have to.
And the other thing I think I'd like to include in that is Social Security disability. Now, not SSI, that's a different thing. And we can talk about it in a minute if you want to, but Social Security disability, what they call Title II, this is not welfare. This is the money you have paid into the system. You have bought it just like you bought an insurance policy. And you don't owe anybody any apology for applying for that at all. It's not your neighbor's money. It's not some politician's money.
This is money you put in.
It's your money. And if anything wrong has happened, the Social Security or the U.S. government has spent a lot of that money because they didn't have the money otherwise.
Right. Pat, I want to ask you a question. I just saw a couple of folks coming in for prep meetings for Social Security hearings, and they're always nervous, and they always want to know what goes on at a hearing. Can you tell us basically what happens at a Social Security hearing?
Certainly.
And is there any reason to be nervous if you're the claimant?
Well, I can't say there's not. A lot of this depends on who the judge is, in all honesty.
Right.
And most of the judges are extremely polite and fair, and they don't do anything to do things like what we call gotcha in the law business, where they're trying to trick you into a bad answer or something. There are some that do, and one of the things, because of our wide range of experience, and we've dealt with, I guess, every judge there is, especially here in northern Alabama, is we know what they're going to do ahead of time, and that's one of the most extreme advantages you have in doing these cases, to be able to predict with some certainty how the judge will treat the claimant, how they may rule on a case, how they may react to certain kinds of evidence. But
so you're able to tell the claimant what's going to happen,
exactly,
because you know the judge.
And one of the big changes that occurred probably has been, I keep saying things were 5 years ago when they were 15 years ago.
It was about 5.
It's probably been 15 years when they switched to what we call digital, or not digital, excuse me, video conferencing type hearings, where the judge stays in Birmingham, and if you're from the area of Jasper, you go to the Social Security office up here, and the judge is on the television, and are there talking to them.
Right.
Most of the judges, again, are fair and nice and kind. I don't particularly like those kinds of hearings because I don't think the judges really get a feel of what these people are really like. And I know the last thing I do when I talk to somebody is I tell them what clothes to wear, what not to wear. I tell them to have somebody bring them to the hearing who's not on disability. Unfortunately, if your husband has had 8 back surgeries and 28 heart attacks, it still casts a kind of a negative connotation on the person who's having a hearing. It shouldn't. They have no control over what happens health-wise in their family. And
let me ask you this: once the hearing starts, what's the process?
The process, once the hearing starts, is the judge has some formalities that they go through about allowing evidence to come in with no objection. That's what's already in there. It's just a formality.
Telling everybody the issues.
Telling everybody the issues. Ordinarily, they waive that now.
Right.
You say, I've gone over all this with my client, which we have, and try to tell them, and they're so scared they'll say anything at that point, which is fine. I mean, we wouldn't dare lead them in the wrong direction or let them say something that would go against them. But then the hearing starts. Some of the judges ask the questions to get out from them everything.
Right.
How old they are, how far they went in school, what kind of ailments they got, how did they affect them. And some of the judges say, Mr. Bryan or Mr. Nelson, y'all go ahead and do the questioning. So
some will give you an opening statement.
Right, exactly. And which frankly, I like that. And I ask for one a lot of times, even if they haven't said, they'll let you make one if you ask for it too. I think, I guess I need to inject this here. One of the great disadvantages we have, Bob, you have tried a lot of lawsuits in front of juries, and I have too years ago. I don't do that now like I used to. But unfortunately, most of the judges who work for the Social Security Administration have never been what you and I would call a real lawyer.
Right.
All right. And
They just worked in the administrative realm.
They
their whole-
work in bureaucracies and things like that, no matter how well-meaning they are. Now, some of them have.
Right.
And if I have a choice, that's who I want, you know. But I would say 80% of them have not. So you have to be careful not to offend them and say, you don't know what you're doing, you know. And I've had that come up quite a few times, and in my old age here, as I go through it, I'm not as restrained to do that as I used to be.
Well, you know, I guess it's incumbent upon us as lawyers to explain a job to a judge that may not know that job.
Exactly.
You
Tactfully.
know, in West Alabama, like you said, we have chicken processing plants, we have mobile home plants, we have coal mines, and all of which are very unique work environments. But work much harder work than what you expect.
One of the other things that I guess gets overlooked a lot by a lot of the attorneys is explaining to the claimant what a vocational expert
Right.
is. At every hearing does not involve a child, what we call a child's case, there is a vocational expert. And that person is someone who has been trained in vocational rehabilitation. They're supposed to know any job that someone has held within reason. What we call the exertional level is it sedentary, light, medium, or heavy? And you know, when I say light, people will get up in his hearings if you don't watch it, and they'll say, I do light housework. Well, light is not that.
Yeah.
Light is pretty strenuous work, so you got to make sure
Light's
they
not
don't-
being able to lift more than about 10 pounds.
Right, and plus you're not supposed to be on your feet more than 2 hours out of the working day. So you want to be careful about that. But the other thing, these vocational experts work from this book called The Dictionary of Occupational Titles, and it has not been updated for the most part in 30-something years. There was no internet then, there was no nothing. Most of these jobs, like you mentioned, the trailer home or the chicken processing, they are much more strenuous than that book accounts for.
Right.
And so, you know, you need to be sure to bring that out too. There's not many jobs. Somebody that works at Walmart, they're going to cashier, they're going to stock, they're going to do all kinds of things, and they're going to be lifting things that go up to 50 pounds. And they used to not even be palletized there. They would have to do it all by hand, and I think they are palletized now, I'm not sure.
Well, you know, at 50 years, almost 50 years old, when I'm outside for a whole Saturday, walking around the whole day, that's different than when I was 30 years old, obviously.
Exactly.
And it's sometimes hard, I think, for the judges and the vocational experts to understand that when you get an advancing age client, 45, 50, 55, it's almost impossible to be on your feet 40 hours a week on concrete.
Oh, yeah.
It just can't be done. And I think that's lost sometimes in the...
Anybody who questions the even status of somebody applying for disability, I would urge them to try to stand up without holding on to something. Just stand in one place.
Right.
And I promise you, you're going to be shocked, even if you have no physical problems, how long you can do that. It is very, very demanding, and it would hurt if most people, even in good physical condition, tried it. Somebody like me that's old and worn out and their back shot, I mean, I'd be lucky if I could do it 5 minutes, to be honest with you.
Pat, what are the things that will harm your chances of winning a Social Security disability case? What are the things you see that harms people the most in getting their case approved?
Well, first and foremost, and frankly they have no control over this, is their age.
Right.
If you're under 50, it makes it very difficult. The next thing would be the lack of having a regular doctor. And then after that, it would be the lack of having a doctor who really is a regular doctor. Like we have 2 indigent care places here in Walker County, and one of those is Whiteley Health Services, and the other one is Capstone. And if you go there, there's very limited things they can do. So they can't really help you with a disability case like in the case where someone has a regular treating physician who is an internist.
They could send them for an MRI or something.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, what you're really boiling it down to is do they have insurance or not. Capstone and Whatley, I think their charge now is about $20.
Right.
If you have no medical care at all, that's better than nothing.
I get questions from judges a lot. Well, where's the objective evidence?
Right.
Where's the X-ray? Where's the CAT scan?
Right.
And if you're in thank God for our charity care facilities, but they just can't prescribe those.
Right. Well, I know I had a client week before last who had a hearing yesterday. I didn't actually do the hearing, and an associate of ours did the hearing, but I managed to talk him, his family, into paying for an MRI.
Right.
And we got that done, and I mean, I think we'll win his case because of that. But he had to pay for it out of his pocket.
Luckily, with MRIs, you can get them now for
They
$300 to $400,
This one
instead
was-
of $2,000.
Right.
So,
This was $300 is what he paid. Right.
and that very well could be the difference.
It
in
could
this
be the
case.
difference between life and death on one of these things, and when I say life and death, I mean winning the case or not.
A lot of folks may not know this, but I think why you've been successful over the years and why we continue to do this is we spend a lot of our own money on the case prior to the hearing, and if we lose, we don't get that back.
That's right.
What do you do? How do we spend money?
Well, we spend money. I'd say the biggest expenditure we have are what we call lawyers. We call them depositions, but really in Social Security case, they're a sworn statement. And you or me or one of us will go out and actually see their regular doctor, sit down with them in person. And this often involves driving an hour to get there, may have to wait an hour,
Right.
and then doing it. But it's the difference between winning and losing. And the doctors charge anywhere from $250 to, in some cases, $1,000 or more. Even though we try to tell them it's only going to take 10 to 15 minutes, they're so used to dealing with lawyers who take a lot of time on these kinds of things. And so we understand that, and once they see what we are doing and what we're attempting to do, they want to help their patients if they can, especially when they know they're disabled.
And the law is the law of the United
Right.
States is that the treating sources have the best view of what they call the longitudinal
record.
look.
I've seen somebody over a long time.
Right, they can see them and see how it's progressed.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and I think we're probably looking at now an average of $500 in expenses for each case.
Oh, I'd say it's more than that. I'd say it's closer to $600 or $700.
Right. But I think that's the
we
thing.
pay that out of our pocket, and I'm tooting our horn here, but we're probably in a really small minority of attorneys who take the trouble to do it and spend the money, to be honest with you.
Because it's not just the money; it really is most times a 4-hour round trip
Exactly.
to drive to Birmingham
Exactly.
or Hackleburg or Florence to take
Right.
a deposition.
Right.